So Scott, to start off with, we've picked out a selection of photos from your career. If you want to pick them up right now and sort of speak through them and see what you see.
Oh, I was rolling back the years. This was a great loan move for me in Plymouth. I was only 17 under Ian Holloway. He brought me in. Yeah, it's just one of them times where it makes you learn a lot about football and going on loan and sort of playing in man's football rather than being in the youth team or the reserves.
Yeah. What's the next one?
The next one. Oh wow. This was, I think it was my Premier League debut coming on against Arsenal at the Emirates. I think it was. I was only 18, coming on and playing in this sort of game. I think it was like as any young player dream come true. And when I went to Chelsea as a 16-year-old boy, and then a couple of years making sort of my debut.
So a stadium like that, what was it like as such a young player to come on to such a huge arena?
Well, that's it. As you're a young player, this is the games you want to be playing in. And to come on and against Arsenal at the Emirates is a massive stage. But any young player sort of strives off this sort of this stadium, and I think going forward, this is what games you want to play in.
And next up, I believe it's at Swansea.
This is a great moment for me. I think this was the second goal at Wembley in the playoff final. This is probably one of the biggest games I've played in my career. It brings back so many happy memories, but to play in a high sort of game and being at Wembley and scoring a hat-trick in that game was something that will always be with me.
I was going to say, we'll talk about it more later, but Wembley itself, what's that like to play at?
No, it was massive. I think it was such a big pressure game, and obviously Swansea not being in the Premier League and never been in it, and travelling all up and through the leagues, and it's a great memory, and I'm sure the fans would probably say the same thing.
I think the next one's another celebration photo at Wembley as well.
So yeah, this is obviously when we won. We beat Reading 4-2, and yeah, that's just me just obviously lifting the trophy. You can see on my face, how happy I am, obviously to be back playing in the Premier League, and it just seems such a long time ago.
I think Brendan Rodgers is in the next one. What sort of influence did he have in your career?
Oh, he was a massive influence. Obviously, being my Chelsea coach. Obviously, when I left here from Bristol Rovers straight to Chelsea at 16, he was my coach, and then after that, he was my coach at Swansea, and then he brought me to Celtic, and then I think under him I've played sort of my best football. But I think he knows me as a person. So, throughout my career, not only does he know me as a football player, he knows me as a person.
What have we got next?
The next one's obviously me celebrating with Brendan Rodgers and Nathan Dyer. I think, we just always laughing and joking, and with the team we had at that time, it was so good. And look, you can see on our faces how ecstatic we are, and to get promoted with Swansea was special.
Next up, I think it's Manchester City. What was that like?
So this was another sort of time in my career where, at that time it was a great move for me to get back to the top team, because I think any player wants to be playing a top 4 club, and going from Chelsea to Swansea, and then being at Swansea for a couple of years, and then going back to City, it was I thought it was a great move for me, but at that time I didn't really play as many games as I would have liked. But I think, as you get older, football's all about experiences, and experiencing the top and what it's like and what it takes. But the most difficult thing is staying at the top. So, I've had so much experience in my career, but when I flick through even these photos now, it just brings back so many memories of what you had to deal with as a footballer, and moving around all around the UK, and sometimes you have great memories, and you have the times where it was tough to dig in, and you got to keep going.
Now, what have we got next?
So that's another one of me and Mario on the bench. I don't know what game it was, but yeah. So when I was obviously at City, I spent most of my time on it. But yeah, like I keep saying, there's so much experience and what it takes. And when I was at that club, it's got the best of everything. But yeah, it was just a shame that I didn't get too much of an opportunity to play every week. But there's so many world-class players at the time. For any young player, it was hard to sort of get a start in every single week.
Yeah, so Mario Balotelli there. What was he like on the training pitch? He's someone that's talked about so much.
Yeah, he's a character. When you read everything about him, that's what he is. He's always double lively every single time he comes into training. He had this energy about him. Sometimes he was always playing jokes. But the same thing is he was a very, very good player.
Now, what's next?
Another great memory. This is being me at Celtic. Looking back now, I had unbelievable years there. It was probably one of the best of my career so far. Winning the treble, doing the first season and getting an invincible sort of treble, and Scotland Player of the Year, and the Writers Player of the Year. So that first time for me was great to get myself on a trophy, and obviously the fans were unbelievable. They had a song about me, but yeah, it was an incredible time. I did 3.5 years there, and yeah, it was an unbelievable time there.
So from your personal point of view, do you think that was your best season of your career, or maybe at least the most enjoyable?
I would say both.
Yeah.
I think after coming on the back of leaving City to go to Aston Villa, the love of the game started to be tough. I think for any player, when you're not playing as much, it's the hardest thing ever to sort of dig in and keep playing and keep training the way you're training to get back up the ladder and play for a top team. And Brendan spoke to me about 2 or 3 times beforehand, and then I left, and he said it'd be the best thing for me, and it was. I think it was the happiest time. I was just getting back the love of the game, and once you're in love with the game, and I think you can express yourself. I think only better things come out of it. And then we went on to have an amazing team, an amazing run, play in the Champions League, and have so much experience. And I think I'll always sort of be welcome back when I go back there, I think.
You mentioned the Champions League there. I think the next 3 or 4 photos are all of the Champions League, if you want to have a look at those.
Yeah.
What was that experience like playing in Europe's pinnacle of competitions?
So this is obviously unbelievable. I think this at the Camp Nou. I think this was at the Camp Nou. You can see me shaking hands with Messi. I think, like I said, when you're on the same pitch as these kind of players and having these experiences, this is all you dream as a boy. And obviously coming from Bristol Rovers when I was 8 and working my way up and playing in the Champions League, it just goes to show that hard work pays off, and when you dig deep and you keep working hard, eventually it all works out.
Did you swap any shirts that day? Have you got a nice Barcelona shirt on the wall somewhere?
Unfortunately, no, because we lost 7-0 that game. Obviously, it's a great way of when you're playing and you're playing against these kind of players, but at the same time, you're still fuming when you're coming off losing 7-0. And I can remember when Scott Brown come in the dressing room and he had a go at a few of the lads for swapping shirts, but yeah, because we lost the game, unfortunately I didn't pick anyone's shirt that game.
Now have a look at a few more of them. I think there's another Barcelona one against PSG as well.
See, there's another one me trying to cross the ball. I think it was two players coming in, and then but like I said, it's just one of these experiences when you sometimes as players you don't get to play on these kind of stages, and it's one of these things where at this time in my career it was such an enjoyable time.
Now, so what's the next one?
The next one is me and Robin. Obviously, I'd known him from being back at Chelsea. he was an unbelievable player. He's probably one of the players that I look up to when I was at Chelsea when I was young. I thought he was probably one of the best players I've trained with, because in training he was unbelievable, and obviously as a player. But you know, throughout his career, what he's done and what he's achieved, it was great to learn off these kind of players at such a young age.
Now what's up next?
So as me, it was against PSG. That was obviously Mbappe. You can see by his quality, you know, when you're on the pitch with these guys, you can see the elite level, what they're at, and how fast he was and how skillful. You could really tell with these kind of players and why they're playing at the top level. But it's all great, and it's all great to play against the likes of these players and see, you know, how far away from it is the top. And if you keep working hard, like I keep saying, you do play against these guys.
Great stuff. What's the next one?
The next one. So the next one's obviously at Ibrox against Rangers.
What are those sorts of games like to play in?
It's hard to explain to any player who's not sort of featured in them. It's one of the best games you can play in, and the best derbies out there, especially what I've played, because it means so much to the fans. And at that time, you know, our team was exceptional. I think it might have been the game where I scored the winner. We won 2-1, and the feeling of when you win at the Ibrox and you leave the stadium, and everyone, all your support and all the Celtic fans are right behind you, and we were going through a great run at the time. I think there was nothing better at that stage.
Would you say that's the fiercest rivalry that you've ever been a part of?
Oh, for sure. I think it's definitely one of the best. And I could probably be a little bit biased, but I've played in a lot of derbies, but this is definitely the best one I've played in.
Now next up, what have we got?
So this is me lifting the Scottish Cup. Another thing, you can see the excitement, the enjoyment, and just the happiness, the pure emotion that I was missing for the last 3 or 4 years before that. And I think as myself, you can't buy these sort of feelings. And when I went to City and you get a good contract, and it was great at that time, but when you're lifting trophies and you're being as a team and you're playing every week and you're scoring goals, I think for any footballer, it can't be implemented from anything else really.
And the final one, Bristol Rovers.
Another one. So just happy to be home, shall I say? So where it all started off, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Of being here and seeing the fans, and when I score here, it means so much to me, and it's like I'm part of the furniture, shall I say? But they've given me everything to become the player I am today, and all the experiences of what we've gone through and what I'm talking about, all these photos and playing in the Champions League, playing against Messi and Mbappe and all these other top class players. Bristol Rovers always be in my heart, and I'm sure I've got a few more years left in me, so hopefully we can just keep improving and doing as well as I can.
Now moving away from the photos, we'll start right at the beginning really. Born in Bath, what was life growing up around the local area like back then?
So obviously I'd say Bath's more of a rugby city, so football, a lot of people played football more, rugby more than football, so it's a nice area, and for my mum and dad to travel to Bristol, it's not far, very local, so I enjoyed it every single time of coming into training when I was such a young boy.
So what was your first memories of football, and did you have any idols when you were growing up? Yeah,
so first memory of, well, as I can think of, I used to always watch football, no matter who it was. Any kind of football was on TV, I'd be watching it. My dad's an Arsenal fan, So I'd be always watching Arsenal, and then I had my uncle who's a Man U fan, so it was quite divided throughout the family. And obviously I used to watch Thierry Henry growing up. Used to obviously idolise him as when I was really young, and when he used to come in and cut in and sort of score goals. I think he was an exceptional player. So yeah, any sort of football I'd be watching.
Now we'll turn back the time to Boxing Day 2004, 20 years ago, when you made your senior debut. The second youngest Bristol Rovers player ever. What was that experience like?
The experience was amazing. When you're such a young age, and you don't really take it in as much as when you get older, and you look back and think, well, that's actually an achievement. But at that time, I'm 15, I'm making my debut. For any sort of young player, any footballer, that's all you want to do. You just want to play football. And to make my debut at that age, and going into school 2 days later, is any boy's dream. And when I do look back, it makes me feel so old, like 20 years ago. But look, I'm in a fortunate position where I'm still enjoying the game. I still love it, and that's what I'll keep playing as long as I can until that enjoyment leaves me.
Was there any nerves or excitement going into the game, or as such a young player, does that not count for anything?
I think when you're so young, you're just so happy to be on the pitch and just so happy to be around the first team at such a young age. So I'd never really got nervous at a young age. I just, took it all in. I was such a confident boy. But I think when you're young, you're always confident going into anything.
Where do you think that confidence comes from? Your ability, or is it someone that you've looked up to?
I think it's your ability. I think it goes back to the enjoyment, the love. I think when you're training with the first team, it gives you confidence. I was missing school once a week. So all these factors add into it. So when you do go out on that pitch, you've got to believe in yourself. And I think you've got no fear factor in you when you're so young.
Now, Bristol Rovers to Chelsea, that's quite an impressive leap. How did you know they were interested, and what was sort of the process to you signing there?
So obviously, I had an agent at the time. He came round and he spoke to me and said there's a few clubs interested. But like I said, because it's such a rugby city, you don't normally hear about scouts coming down and talking about football or getting players from sort of down these sort of areas. And yeah, when my agent said Chelsea was interested, I couldn't believe it really. Do you know what I mean? So it was one of them, when they did come in, it was unbelievable to hear.
Now, you made your debut against Wycombe, but if we talk about when you first went into the training ground and all the names around you, what was that like, just seeing household names really just all over the place?
Well, these are the players that you see on TV every week. It's quite surreal at such a young age. But like I keep saying, this is what you want to do as a young player and any sort of footballer growing up. So, when I'm in that dressing room, you're looking around and it's great to have this experience to know what you want and you can follow on and to see what the players do to get where they're going, and that's where they were.
So that Wycombe Wanderers game, the players that were playing at the time, Ashley Cole, Michael Essien, Claude Makelele, Michael Ballack, John Obi Mikel, was there anyone in that game that you can remember that sort of put their arm around your shoulder and went, right, this is how we do it here?
I can't really remember that far, ideally, but do you know what? When you're in that team, everyone made me feel welcome at such a young age, because back then, I'm one of the youngest in the team, even at Chelsea at Chelsea, and I think everyone just helped me. The captain, John Terry, he was unbelievable at the time for all the young players coming through. Frank Lampard, Ashley, there's loads of all the English guys that they knew, and they looked after all of us coming through.
Now then you went on loan to Plymouth Argyle. How much of an influence was Ian Holloway to going on to that loan?
He was a massive influence. He knows me and obviously my family as well. He was also my coach when I was here at Bristol Rovers when I was 8, 9. So he knew me. And when he brought me to Plymouth, then it was one of them where it was my first loan. So for any young player going out on loan, you're moving away, you're staying in a hotel, and you're only 17 is a massive step. But it only sort of gives you that experience to learn and to perform as well. So it's about performing every week. And when you are young enough, you sort of quickly understand that you can't play one week very well and then next week not so good. So it's trying to keep up that sort of consistency of playing every week and playing well as well.
Now, it might have been a bit of time ago, but do you remember your first senior goal against Barnet, the long run down the left-hand side and then finishing it off? Can you remember much of that?
Oh, I can remember coming on and picking it up in my own half and dribbling and taking it around, 3 or 4 players, and then going down and scoring, and then, the next day seeing it on Sky Sports News. When it brings back memories and you're young, this is the programs and all the sports and all the TV shows that you've been watching growing up. So, it's quite surreal, and it's great that when you do work hard, like I keep saying, it does pay off.
Now, 15 appearances for Plymouth before coming back to Chelsea. Like we mentioned before, you made your debut against Arsenal, but you also played against and started against Manchester United, who I believe is your boyhood club. So what was that like, coming up against a team that you'd supported since you were a child?
Yeah, so obviously being young and supporting United, it was a great game to play, and that was my Premier League debut at Stamford Bridge. I was only 18, and to get that start against Man U, it made it a little bit more special, shall I say. And I started off the game, I was doing really well. I can remember getting the ball and dribbling and taking on players and being really positive. And then in the second half, unfortunately, I broke my foot. So, it's one of them where I've gone from high to low in the space of 60, 70 minutes or whatever it was. But these are the things that you get injured, you've got to bounce back, and it's not just about playing on the field, it's about being mental, having mental toughness to go through that and then do the rehab and then come back stronger.
Now, the following season, 3 separate loan moves to 3 different championship clubs. I mean, going to so many different places, I don't think you can even do that anymore. I think you can only go to 2 clubs in one season. So what was that like, bouncing about and maybe experiencing different things?
That was very difficult. I think sometimes I was only going to clubs for emergency loan for like 2 months, I think, or 3 months it was. And it's hard to settle in. So if you're at a club for 3 months, you've got to hit the ground running. And sometimes if the team's not doing well, and if the team is doing well when you get there, then it's hard to get yourself in. So all these factors add up into this. So, with all my sort of experiences now, I can look back and understand why I didn't play at this club, or why I didn't play there, or why my football was so good at that club. So I think, when you do go through all these things, you sort of have an understanding of them all.
Now, 2 further loan moves to Birmingham and Wigan before deciding to move away permanently. Do you feel like that was the right time to leave Chelsea?
Yeah, for sure. I think, when you're young and you're up and you're coming and you play a certain amount of games, when you're at Chelsea, you get to a certain age where you need to be playing every week. And I didn't really take that sort of breakthrough. There was so many superstars in the team. So for an 18, 19, 20-year-old to take anyone's place, it was tough. It was hard to sort of break in and sort of get that shirt to play every single week. But I learned so much, and then it gets to a stage where you need to move on. So I moved on and left Chelsea and went to Swansea, and didn't look back.
I was going to say, what was the thoughts behind going to Swansea? What did they bring to the table that you quite like the look of?
I think it was just being Brendan as a manager, from knowing him back at Chelsea, and he's gone to be at Swansea as a manager. Like I said, he knew me, and he knew all my strengths and my weaknesses. So, under him, I've played my best football. So I went to Swansea, and I've had all these experiences. And when you're a Chelsea player, you end up going on loan so many times. But, sometimes I didn't want to go on loan, but you had to, because if you didn't, you'd be sat in the reserves doing nothing. So I obviously left and went to Swansea, signed there, and then ended up scoring 27 goals, and then getting the hat-trick in the playoff final, and then being back in the Premier League with Swansea.
I was going to say, an unbelievable first season. Does it feel like everything just clicks?
Yeah, I think, like I keep saying, from all these experiences, and I never give up. I kept going. Eventually, you will have a breakthrough, and that was my breakthrough, you know. So everything just clicked. I think when I was playing in the formation, had the right style of play. I think, you know, we kept the ball well. We attacked with pace, and I think, you know, with some players, you just fit in certain teams, and I fitted into Swansea. Really simple, really easy, and I think Brendan knew that. So that was the only thing he said that was missing when I signed. So when I went there, it was an amazing season I had to kick me on.
So you made the playoffs and then you made the playoff final. How much of that day before the actual game at Wembley can you remember? Was it excitement? You mentioned previously you don't get too nervous, but it's the biggest stage of them all, isn't it?
Yeah, it was massive. I think to play in a final, any sort of final, is big pressure. And obviously with the Championship playoff final, I think it's one of the biggest games, you know, to get into that Premier League, because that's what everyone wants to do, to be in the Premier League. So, you know, I think I just took all the pressure on. I used to enjoy it. I still do. And it's just the main thing is when you are as a player to have that sort of belief in yourself to go on and kick on.
And did it feel that, you know, it is a team game, but especially in that final when you score that hat-trick, and especially when you take a second penalty in one game, that you had all the pressure on your shoulders, but maybe you were the star player in that team, and that's what helped you really kick on in that game?
Yeah, I think it's throughout the whole season, because, you know, when you're playing every single week and you're scoring, you're playing well, it builds up the confidence. And I think, you know, going all the way up to the final, the playoff final, so it gives you that confidence. So when you do step up for a penalty or everything's on your shoulders, you're there to sort of deliver. And like I said, I used to thrive off having that pressure on me, and that belief, what I had in myself to step up and score.
And do you think that individual game is maybe your favourite individual game of your entire career, or is there another one that you can think of that maybe you prefer?
I think that's one of the times where, you know, so much pressure, but always resorting back to Celtic when you play against Rangers. That's another one where it's the same sort of similar pressures of that. When you're at Celtic, you're expected to win every single game. But yeah, I think being in the playoff final, there's no better feeling than, especially when you score a hat-trick and getting into the Premier League and going on holiday knowing that you're coming back to play in the Prem. There's no better feeling.
Like you said, back in the Premier League once again, but this time knowing that you were going to be a key player, an important player. Did that maybe have a different feeling then going into the next season, especially now Swansea in the Premier League for the first time, that there was a chance to really push on?
For sure. I think when you know you're a big part player in the team, it gives you the confidence, and it makes you feel that you're wanted in that team. So it's so much different when you're in a team and you're sort of up and coming, or you're sort of on the fringes and you're not quite playing every week. I think it's much different for any player. And like I said, some players fit into different teams, and I think this is football. You know, you can be a good player, but you might not just fit into a system, or the management might not like how you play, but you'll go somewhere else and you'll play very well and you'll do as well as you can. And I think that's what happened to me when I did sign for Swansea. Everything just fitted in.
Now that summer, you represented Great Britain at the Olympics as well. What was that like, you know, representing your nation?
That was an unbelievable time. You know, I can remember being in the lounge waiting around to get the phone call, and you'd see Sky Sports pop up, and because you're still waiting to find out if you're in the squad. And when I finally knew I was in the squad, you know, it was a great feeling and great experience again to go there, go to the Olympic Village and have that sort of experience where I don't think we had it in such a long time.
Now Manchester City up next once again after leaving Swansea. How do you reflect on your time there overall? I
think it was tough. I think because I was always chasing to be back in the top teams, you know, in the top four. I always wanted to be playing for the best team. And I think sometimes as players, you forget to just be in the moment. And when I was younger, I was always chasing. And then again, yeah, I ended up signing at City, and I had 2 years in Swansea, one in obviously the first year in the Championship, another one in the Premier League, and got my move to City and thinking, right, I'm back at the top again, how do I kick on? And I started the first few games, I can remember, and it just didn't really work out. I think sometimes it does work and sometimes it doesn't, but I put it down to all his experiences now, so it's great that I had that experience, but at that time it's probably one of the toughest times as my sort of footballing career goes, where you're there but you're in the fringes, you're getting 10 minutes here and there, sometimes you're not in the squad, sometimes you're playing. So I think it's very, very difficult of my time at sea.
Now, a couple of loan moves away again, did it sort of feel similar to the Chelsea time where you're right on the edges but you couldn't quite push into that starting 11?
Yeah, I think it's being settled. I think sometimes I never got settled enough to perform, because you're uprooting. That this is one of the down sort of sides of being a footballer. You're uprooting, you're staying in a hotel for 5-6 months. You can't find a property to rent, and you can't just get settled. And you're away sometimes from your little ones or whatever. But things get tough, but you just got to deal with it. And it's the same at West Brom. I think it was very tough for me when I went there. I played the first few games. I was under Steve Clarke, which I knew he was at Chelsea assistant. So that's another sort of guy I knew, and he knew me, so that's why he brought me in. And once I got there, and then I think it was in the few weeks he got sacked. So, once he got sacked and got replaced, there's obviously new players that come in through, and obviously different managers have different views on who they sort of like and who they want in. So, that's another tough time of me, but it's another loan. It feels like I have been on loan so many times, but it has learnt and given me great experience.
Now, we talked about a phenomenal great season, first season with Swansea, possibly even better first season with Celtic. What was the steps to joining them, going all the way over to Scotland to try something new?
Well, obviously, the stature of the club is massive, but I didn't realise how big it is. I don't think anyone does until you're actually up there and you play for them, and how much it means to fans and how much it means to you. But that's the only club I would say is I was settled. I went there and I didn't just want to be back at Man City or Chelsea. I just want my happiness back, because I think any player who loses that will understand that that's the biggest factor. I think once you start losing that happiness and that love of playing, it's much difficult to get back. But I went to Celtic and I wasn't sort of running after anything else. I was just being in the moment. And I think, being in that moment at that time at Celtic, I think it was one of the best times of my career, of just not looking elsewhere, of just taking training each day as it comes, enjoying the life, enjoying being in Scotland. And I started being happy again. And I didn't want to be anywhere else at that time. So I think, when you're not chasing anywhere else, I was really, really settled.
I was going to say, you're the first player since the early 90s for Celtic to score in the first 5 games that they've played in. You mentioned before the treble. Just sum up for me that individual season as a team, but also for you personally, what it was like. It
was unbelievable. It worked out better than probably I could even imagined. To do the first season as an invincible treble, the team we had, everything about it, it was just unbelievable. And you're going with 60,000 chanting your name, and it's just such a great sort of experience to have, and an understanding of when you're winning games is like you can't imagine how good it is, and to be a footballer when you're sort of having that sort of enjoyment. And then we went on and to do the trebles. So, and when I look back now, it just goes to show how good our team was and how good being a Celtic player was.
I was going to say 28 goals and 8 assists as well. I think you basically won every award possible in that season. Would you say that's when your confidence was at the highest?
For sure. I'm always a confident player, but I think it goes to show when you are scoring goals and when you are playing week in, week out, and you're settled, I think that's when you play your best football. And obviously being under a manager who knows you and knows all your attributes, so I think that makes a massive difference. And you just want to play in the team for for a long, long time.
Now, a couple more seasons at Celtic before going to Preston. What made you want to return to England?
So obviously, once you do the treble, and I think Brendan left, and there was a few changes at the club, and I've gone from playing every single week to being a sort of part player. I thought it was just the right time to leave. I wasn't playing as much, but I didn't really want to leave at that time. But I think it was on the cards that I sort of had to. So once I did leave and I went to Preston, another exciting time to move back to, obviously, back to sort of Manchester area, shall I say, and with the little ones and the kids and stuff. So it was a good time to move.
I was going to say, a lot of time people don't really think about that outside of football, but incorporating the family and your friends, how important is that as a footballer to try and stay as close to them as possible?
Yeah, of course. That's the main thing, because there's going to be players out there when you live far away from your parents, and your parents don't see the grandchildren grow up as much as they would like. So that was another part of me. So when I did move back, then my parents could see the kids more, and that was the thing, having the support around you as well. So because family's a massive part of my life, so that was a big deal.
Are you sort of teaching them to play football? Are you happy for them to sort of do what they want to do?
Yeah, so obviously I've got 2 girls and a little boy. So my 2 girls play football. So the 9-year-old and the 6-year-old, they play for teams. And my little boy, he just plays in the house with me. But yeah, I'm sure he will play. But I wouldn't push it onto them, do you know what I mean? I think the kids will sort of work out what they want to do and what they enjoy.
Now, after a few seasons at Preston, your returns to Bristol Rovers, what were your feelings behind that? Were any other options, or was it always going to be Rovers?
It was always going to be Rovers. I think, I don't think it could work out even better. So when they did come in for me, I was delighted. Just to come back and make an impact, and like I said earlier, it feels like home. So to come back home and give the fans what they sort of missed, but at an older age, shall I say? But they've gave me the platform to go and play, like I said earlier, to go and play against many of these players in amazing stadiums and play at the highest level you can play. So to come back, I thought. It was a great enjoyment, and it was only Rovers for me.
I was going to say, it's been 3 seasons so far into the 3rd season. I should say, do you still feel that you're playing some really good football? Do you still feel fit? And overall, how's it been?
Yeah, obviously I'm really fit. So I'm still probably one of the fittest in the team, even at my age. But do you know what? I look after myself. I always have in my whole career. So that's the main factor of why. I'm still in shape. I still enjoy doing the gym. I still do the other things that you don't see on the football field. But at this age now, I can give a bit more advice to the young players coming through, and obviously talk to them. So sometimes if I'm not playing, I can try and help and tell everyone and all the young players about my experiences. And obviously when I do play, I give 100%, and I want to do as well as I can for the team, because it feels so much more to me. Being back here and wearing the badge.
I was going to say, do you still have that same feeling at scoring a goal? I mean, when you put the ball into the top corner against Charleston, does that celebration and that passion and that pride still run through?
It means so much more to me, of just being back at Rovers. So when I do score a goal, you can see, the celebrations, and when I did put the ball in the top corner against Charlton, it just means so much. You can see every single time I do score, I celebrate like crazy, and like I keep saying, I want to do as well as I can for the team, and keep going forward. So
almost 20 years to the day, Boxing Day, since you made your debut. Does it feel like 20 years ago? How has that time passed so quickly, I guess?
It goes so quick, and at the time when you just want to keep doing better and get better and keep playing and every single week, but as you get older, you start looking back and trying to be a little bit more in the moment now, shall I say. But yeah, when I do look back and I'm looking through these photos, it brings back great memories of, all the sort of travelling and all the clubs I've been at.
I was going to say, those 20 years, how do you reflect on almost 600 games and probably even more?
Well, you've just got to keep going. I think, like I said, the main thing is looking after yourself, being in great shape, and when you're called upon, and when you are playing, when you're not playing, is when you do step on that line, is literally make sure you're ready, and then at the same time, if you're not, you make sure behind the scenes you're doing everything you can to play.